Howdy, howdy. So we're on chapter 2, text 12. A few weeks ago, I had some time on my hands, and I, rather unfortunately, decided to watch a show, a TV show. And it's a show I'd known about. It's been on for decades now. But this is the first time I watched it a little bit in the very beginning, but I had some time. I came up in my... So I began watching this show, and it's wherein they take a bunch of people, they put them on an island, and there are scarce resources, there are no amenities, and they have to vie and compete for various amenities. There's serial competitions, those who lose and then tossed off the island. And the goal is to go on and to go on and to go on. And the last person standing, they get a prize of some sort. But what was absolutely disturbing was the despicable, deceitful interactions between all of these people. I mean, it was I was absolutely horrified. I was fascinated, but horrified of the violence, not physical, but the emotional violence, the lying, the deceit, the distress, the anxiety people were inflicting and experiencing upon one another in this environment. And it's an environment where the mentality is one of scarcity, finite resources, finite, only one is going to get to the end. And everyone was essentially cannibalizing one another in this environment. That is the scarcity mentality. This particular verse, we see something else entirely. Krishna is indicating, never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings, Krishna is saying to Arjuna. Nor in the future shall any of us cease to be. So Krishna is saying, in the past, you and I existed. In the present, you and I exist as individuals. And in the future, we will exist in perpetuity as individuals. This mindset, I mean, we're many of us may be Bhakti Shastris, and we know that the Bhakti Shastri philosophical take from this verse is Krishna saying we're always eternally individuals. But leaving that thought aside, Krishna is also indicating here something that is very, very important, and that is an abundant mentality, an infinite understanding of reality, an infinite level of consciousness, nature of our consciousness. Whereas on the one hand, we have Prakriti, and Prakriti is finite, right? Time, space is all finite, right? This material body, male, female, black, white, will come to an end. Money can be finite, space, time can be finite in how we interact with it. Those are the tangible things. There are intangible things that are also finite, scarce. Love, or may perceive love as finite or scarce. Appreciation, self-satisfaction, self-confidence, we can also experience as scarce and infinite. So many different things, whether tangible or intangible, we experience or know to be finite and scarce in this material reality. Prakriti. Prakriti, while real, is temporary, finite. We know this. The problem in a finite reality is that success can only be defined by survival. You can only survive an environment of scarcity by, surviving. That is success. To succeed in an environment of scarcity is merely to survive. But we know what that means. Watch the TV show. There is dishonesty, deceit, arrogance, envy, violence, physical and emotional, distress, anxiety, frustration, fear, anger, resentment. That's what exists in an environment where there's scarcity, where we have a mindset that is scarcity driven, and the only thing we can possibly do, success in that environment, is to merely survive. And with that impetus or drive to survive comes all of those attendant maladies, if you will. And that's putting it very mildly. But we take what Krishna is talking about here, and then we couple it with another principle, spiritual principle, from the Upanishads. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate, right? It's described that the Supreme is perfectly complete unit. That which emanates from the Supreme is also perfectly complete in itself. You and I are perfectly complete units. So taking these two ideas, what Krishna is talking about in chapter 2, text 12, this Upanishadic verse, Purnamada Purnamidam, then we come to understand, and this is the spiritual mentality, the spiritual conditioning, that in the past, we were perfectly complete individual beings and units. In the present, we are perfectly complete individual beings, units, complete whole. In the future, we will be, in perpetuity, perfectly complete individual beings, units, whole. This is the spiritual concept. This is the abundant mentality. So the key is how to live in a finite world where the mentality is about scarcity with a consciousness that is abundant in nature, that sees things in terms of its infinite nature. Because when we do that, then it's not about how do we survive, it's about, or success is not defined by surviving. Success then becomes, how do we thrive? We can thrive in such an environment. This is not this is not phantasmal. This is not some utopia living in Narnia. This is literally, how do we thrive in this present reality, prakriti, that is infinite, that resources are infinite. So many things are finite, not infinite. So many things are finite and scarce. But if we come to and we exist in that environment with a consciousness that is spiritual or abundant in nature, we can then thrive in this environment. And it's not about survival. We thrive. But it takes a different level of consciousness. So then how do we get there? How do we, develop this abundant mentality? This spiritual mentality. It's very, very simple. Oftentimes we think such it's like it's a revelation. It's not. It's 4 letters, 4 words. Very, very simple. We'll come to it. The Olympics. How many people endeavor to become an Olympic athlete? Very few. How many Olympic athletes participate in the Olympics and then go on to actually achieve or obtain an Olympic medal? Very few still. And Krishna talks about this, right? Manushyanam sahasreshu kashijatati siddhaye. 7th chapter, Krishna says, out of many, many thousands of people, one may endeavor to become an Olympic athlete, right? And of those who become Olympic athletes, very few will get a gold medal. The gold medal is the ability to thrive. The gold medal is this spiritual mentality. Very few even endeavor for that spiritual mentality. Those who endeavor, they don't continue enough to obtain that spiritual mentality in order to thrive in this finite, material, scarcity-driven world, reality. And the reason why they do not do so is not because it's difficult. It's not about difficult. It's about consistency. It's very easy. It's 4 words. Our mentality, scarcity-driven mentality, comes from beliefs. And these beliefs create an identity, a false identity, but an identity. And we live with this false identity, thinking that the only way we're going to exist in this world is to survive. The only way to succeed, in this world or success is determined by survival. And all the attendant maladies that come along with it. You know what they are? Watch the TV show. You know which TV show I'm talking about. It comes from false identity. And that's what brings us to this verse where Krishna indicates a different identity. When we have a spiritual identity, when we uncover a spiritual identity, then this false identity with all these false beliefs fades away. This spiritual identity is, I am a spirit soul. It is a spiritual identity. That is what's infinite. That is what is abundant. That consciousness, that conditioning, that abundant spiritual realization, if we take that realization, we can then live and exist in this finite reality, in Prakriti, and we can thrive. It takes a spiritual mentality to thrive in a finite world, in a finite reality. It has to be a spiritual mentality. A finite mentality will only lead us to survival. And we know what survival looks like. Watch the show. Right? So how do we develop that spiritual mentality? Very, very simple. 4 words. I am a spirit soul. That's it. I know you wanted to, we want to hear some, whoa, that was revelatory. It's that simple. That's what Krishna is saying here. Natveva ham jatu nasham natam neme janadipa. You're a spirit soul in the past, an individual spiritual being in the past. You are one now. You will continue to be one in the future. That's it. That's it. So for us, the practice for us simply has to be, let's not worry about getting rid of a false identity, getting rid of a ahankara. Let's not worry about that to which we focus, we empower, right? So don't focus on it. Let's empower what we want to, or let's focus on that which we want to empower. That is our true identity. So let's focus on I am a spirit soul. And it is that simple. 10 seconds. But it has to be done, and this is the rub. It is so childishly simple because it has to be done every day. If you want to live, you have to eat every day. If you want to be an Olympic athlete, you have to practice every day. If you want to live, you have to breathe. You have to inhale every single minute. It's the same thing with uncovering our spiritual identity. It is so childishly simple that we take it for granted and we don't do it every single day. Many of us were chanting japa, we're doing our Gayatri 3 times a day. Add 10 seconds. I am a spirit soul. Don't say I'm not this body. You focus on body. Focus on the soul. I am a spirit soul. Every single day. And we will begin to realize and internalize that identity. When we realize and internalize that identity, granted, in the beginning, it's just mechanical, reciting it. And I cannot describe it in any other way than in the beginning. Yes, it's mechanical. But it is the consistency and persistently doing it every single day and endeavoring to feel it, internalize it. These words probably aren't helping. You just have to practice it. I'm using words to try to help with that. But you have to practice it. I am a spirit soul. When you say that and internalize, it goes beyond being just a mechanical statement. You will see automatically, inevitably, your consciousness will start to expand in the sense that when you go throughout the world, when you live and interact and exist in a finite world, things that brought you distress, things which caused you in the past, it may have caused you to be deceitful, to lie, to cheat, to be upset, to engage in emotional, intellectual violence, to be distraught, to be regretful, to be frustrated, angered, those things that would have caused those activities, those experiences, those realities that may have caused those things in you in the past will no longer do so. I guarantee it. It is so simple. Krishna is not talking rocket science here. Arjuna gets it in one sitting, the speaking of the Bhagavad Gita. For us, we have to practice it every single day, and it is that simple. I am a spirit soul. It's that simple. Hari Hari.